2 doors, blisteringly quick, sleek design. Did I just name any of your dream cars? Well, if I did, there's a possibility that your dream car is a muscle car, likely from the 1960s. It's probably from the 60s because muscle cars since then have lost popularity due to a few reasons. One being emission standards, and the next two being multiple oil crises in the same decade. But before I talk about those, I'm going to talk about what a muscle car actually is. The widely accepted definition for a muscle car is a car with 2 doors, a V8 engine, powered by the rear wheels, and built in America. The first muscle car was the Pontiac GTO, built in 1964. It was a higher version of the Pontiac Tempest, which had 140 horsepower, and the GTO had 325 horsepower. Horsepower basically means if you have more of it, your car can go faster. So the GTO was significantly faster than the Tempest. Other popular muscle cars from the time were the '69 General Lee Dodge Charger from Dukes of Hazzard, the Chevrolet Camaro, the Dodge Challenger, and the most popular, the Ford Mustang. That's why I have the Mustang's power numbers. The red line being the power from the top model, and the blue line being the power from the lowest model. As you can see, the power goes way up and then plateaus around 1971 and has a quick drop off. That is caused by emission standards. In 1970, the government passed the Clean Air Act, and I got that from EPA.gov. It basically gave EPA, or the Environmental Protection Agency, power to lower pollution from cars and factories. So it lowered carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, lead, and particulate matter in the air. Since 1970, when it came out, pollution has decreased by 99%, which is really good for the public health and really good for the environment, but not good for muscle cars. The power for muscle cars, as you can see, dropped pretty significantly because they had to put parts on their cars like catalytic converters and detune their engines, which drop power, which also drop pollution. But as you can see, the power drops even more. And that was caused by a fuel crisis. In 1973 and 1974, there was a fuel crisis that was caused by a few Middle Eastern countries putting an oil embargo on the U.S., which basically means they weren't going to send oil to the U.S. I got that from Britannica.com. And the reason why they weren't sending oil to the U.S. anymore was because the U.S. had helped Israel in a war. And these countries really didn't like that, so they're like, USA, we're not going to send you oil anymore. This was quite a big problem from the U.S. because they imported most of the oil that they used, so it caused a huge spike in gas prices. I got that from history.com. So gas prices went from 30 cents to 50 cents, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's quite an increase considering how cheap it was before. And it was also during a recession, so people didn't have that much money. The muscle cars at that time got about 8 to 10 miles to the gallon, while Japanese and European compact cars could get 35 to 40 miles per gallon. So those were much more efficient vehicles for them to buy, so they bought more of them, and then the manufacturers saw that demand for muscle cars and cars with low fuel economy to go down. So they either took the muscle cars out of their production lines, or they dropped the power like they did with the Mustang. But like I said, there was another fuel crisis. This one was happening in 1978 and 1979. This one was caused by the Iranian Revolution, and I got that from history.state.gov. Iran stopped production of 4.8 million barrels of oil per day, which was about 7% of the global economy's production of oil, which really shouldn't have caused an oil crisis. The reason there was an oil crisis is because governments of the world were afraid of what happened in 1973 and 74. They were afraid that was going to happen again, so they started hoarding oil. And therefore, the gas prices doubled in just 3 years, so the gas prices was now over $1. But as you can see here, the power, except for 1981, the power is slowly trending upward. That's because technology is slowly getting better. For example, the 1978 Mustang had 139 horsepower and got 18 miles to the gallon. But the 1983 Mustang had 175 horsepower and had 22 miles to the gallon. So the horsepower is going up, and so is the miles per gallon. The only way you can really explain that is the technology is getting better. And I got that from mpgeomatic.com. The technology continued to get better, and currently the horsepower numbers have totally regained, because the 2020 Mustang has 460 horsepower, and it has significantly better gas mileage than the ones from the 60s at 20 miles to gallon compared to the 8 to 10 that they used to get in the 60s. Most muscle cars nowadays have about 300 to 500 horsepower, which compares to normal cars having 150 to 200 horsepower. But some exclusive models can have over 700 to 1,000 horsepower, which if you didn't know, that's quite a bit. And they can reach speeds of over 200 miles per hour, which is just unbelievably fast. The muscle car really dropped in popularity because of emission standards and government regulations, because they were producing too much pollution, so the power went down, and there was also 2 oil crises, and that caused the demand to drop. But as technology kept getting better and better, the popularity went up a little bit, but it will still never be as popular as it was in the 60s. But the future of muscle cars is really uncertain. The introduction of hybrid technology, like the technology used in the Toyota Prius, and the introduction of electric cars by Tesla has really made the future uncertain for muscle cars. We don't know if we'll see muscle cars in the future or what they'll look like. Any questions?